Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Many of you ask me what books I would recommend for you to read to practice English. These days, of course, everyone seems to have access to Harry Potter. But when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, children were not encouraged to be so imaginative. It was considered that books perhaps regarding the English countryside and ones which were more descriptive yet real were somehow more appropriate. One very famous author that I was encouraged to read was called Enid Blyton, and she was a worldwide best-selling author. Maybe you've heard of her. One of her most famous creations was a group of kids called the Famous Five, who had all kinds of adventures. She also wrote about another group of children called the Secret Seven, who were children's detectives. You can find all of these books online now, and they're very interesting. They came from the 1940s and 50s, and they're descriptions of English life as well as the English coastal towns at that time really are very impressive. They're considered to be good books because there's no sudden signs of things like death or aliens landing. They're just good, notable, healthy books for children to read. Another set of books, but a little bit older, is a series called Just William. The William Brown series of books were written by somebody called Rishmael. What's the surname? I'll need to check in a minute. But because the name isn't clear, the name Rishmael sounds like it should be a man. Oh yes, Rishmael Crompton. After all, it would seem very strange for a woman to be writing about an 11-year-old boy. At least that was the thinking back in the 1920s. I only found out recently that Rishmael Crompton was actually a woman, and I was pleasantly surprised because these books are very kind of masculine in the way they've been written. So those are some books for you to look out for. Just William, The Famous Five, and The Secret Seven. If you're looking for something a little bit better and with a more modern theme, you can look for The Hardy Boys. Now, The Hardy Boys were originally created in the 1920s, but they went through many changes all the way up until 2012 and 2013 with different authors. There was a TV show in the 70s and 80s about the Hardy Boys, two TV detectives. They also had a friend called Nancy Drew, and the books are often presented together, the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. She also had her own TV show. They tried to bring back these TV series in 2020, and I think Netflix did one recently about Nancy Drew, but of course they weren't good because they brought in these people, characters who were dating and who weren't quite as innocent as they were in the books of their early years. The Hardy Boys were two brothers who liked to solve crimes. Nancy Drew was the same. So the books from the 80s and before are generally quite innocent. The TV series The 70s and 80s of Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys were also quite good, but looking at them now, they've kind of lost their attraction because they've turned them into kind of like modern teenagers. And well, you know what modern teenagers are like compared to the older ones. So if you're looking for something a bit more up to date involving worldwide espionage and something a bit more challenging, the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew would certainly be for you if you get the correct editions. They've been authored by various people over the years, so I can't give you just one author name, but have a look on the internet and see what you can find. So that's my recommendations for today. Enid Blyton, her books, The Famous Five and Secret Seven. Just William, which was created by Rishmael Crompton. And of course her other books, the William Brown series of books. And finally, the Hardy Boys and the Nancy Drew mysteries, particularly those from the 1970s and 80s onwards. Although the older ones are equally good, but a little bit dated. I hope you found this helpful. Let's talk again soon, and best wishes to you. Have a wonderful day. Bye.